The sound of a man's footsteps echoed on the cold concrete floor. Each step is a reminder that these will be the last steps he can take on his own. Ahead, a thick steel door is open, revealing a small, sealed room, and right in the center is a metal chair. That's the toxic gas room. And that, as people once believed, is where death would come humanely. You tie the condemned man to the chair. You seal the room to ensure that not a single gas atom can escape. And finally, when the final moment arrived, poison gas was pumped into the room, ensuring a quick and painless death. A humane approach to the death penalty for society's most violent criminals. The only thing is, death in a gas chamber turned out to be far from painless and far from humane. To understand why the gas chamber was created, we must go back in time to the early 20th century, when most states in the US were still hanging prisoners. In theory, it seems simple. You pull the condemned person up to the gallows, tie the noose around their neck, and then drop them through a trap door. Contrary to popular belief, death row inmates don't die from asphyxiation, but from the sudden drop that breaks their necks. A clean and quick death, at least on paper. But in reality, it rarely goes exactly as planned. And when a hanging goes wrong, it goes wrong so terribly that it's unimaginable. If a prisoner is dropped from too great a height, their head will be thrown off their neck like a champagne cork popping, spraying a fountain of thick red blood onto the curious onlookers. If dropped from too low a height, the neck won't break, leaving people to stand and watch for long, agonizing minutes as the hanged person slowly suffocates. They struggled, their faces turned purple, and their eyes bulged. The witnesses could not forget that sight. The executioners couldn't sleep either. Clearly, there must be a better solution. And that's when the government turned to poison gas. Again, in theory, it seems like a simple and clean death. A deadly gas was pumped into an airtight room, and the prisoner gradually lost consciousness, followed shortly by a painless death. Once again, reality is completely different from the humane death that people hope for. In the 1920s, the idea of a scientific, sterile, and civilized execution chamber truly captivated lawmakers. It was an era of progress, of modern science, of the belief that technology could solve all problems, including the problem of how to end a person's life decently. No more barbaric scenes of nooses, no more blood and the sound of breaking bones, just a clean room, a few chemicals, and silence. But the question remains hanging in the air like the toxic fumes themselves. Is reality really that clean? Is death in the gas chamber truly the solution to the ethical dilemma facing American society? To understand why the gas chamber failed so miserably, we must first understand the science behind it. There are two types of gas that can be used for execution: poisonous gas and asphyxiating gas. Toxic gas kills by causing multiple organ failure, attacking internal organs, and leading to death. Simple asphyxiation simply makes it difficult for the lungs to get enough oxygen, or prevents oxygen from being absorbed into the blood. Both sound quick and painless. But history has proven the opposite. During World War II, the German Nazis, perhaps the most infamous mass murderers by gas in history, used carbon monoxide to suffocate dozens of people at once. This method has the advantage that cleaning and transporting the plasma is relatively safe and simple. Typically, the gas is generated on-site by running a large diesel or gasoline-powered engine. But it was still a slow process, with executions sometimes taking half an hour or more to complete. Half an hour of suffocation, of panic, of hands pounding on the walls searching for air. Zyklon B, initially used as an insecticide, was quickly discovered to be a superior solution. Unlike carbon monoxide, which kills by suffocation, Zyklon B directly attacks the body's cells, destroying internal organs and causing death in just a few minutes. It was a strange and haunting coincidence of history. At the same time that pest control workers in America were using Zyklon B to control pests, across the Atlantic, the Nazis were using the very same chemical to carry out the largest mass murder campaign in human history. The United States chose sodium cyanide for its executions, which is considered a quick and painless method of death. The process is very simple, at least on paper. The prisoner was tied to a chair placed in an airtight chamber. Beneath the chair is a container filled with sulfuric acid and distilled water. Then, from outside the execution chamber, the executioner would pull a lever, causing sodium cyanide crystals to fall into an acid-water solution, releasing hydrogen cyanide gas. Prisoners are often instructed to breathe deeply to speed up the process of losing consciousness, but most prisoners hold their breath for as long as possible. It's humanity's ultimate survival instinct to reject death, even if it's just for a few more seconds. They sat there, eyes wide, faces flushed, trying to hold onto their last breath as if it could save them. But eventually, their lungs will force them to breathe in, and as they did, the cyanide gas began its work. When cyanide gas enters the body, cyanide ions bind to iron atoms inside the mitochondria of living cells. This binding will prevent cellular respiration, leading to the collapse of organs in the body. Cellular death. Every single cell in the body stops functioning, from the brain to the heart, from the liver to the kidneys. A scientific, precise, predictable death. From outside the thick glass window, the executioner, usually an ordinary prison guard, would pull that lever and then turn away. Many of them never look at it. They didn't want to see the face of the man or woman they had just killed. They just want to get the job done and go home. But for those who are forced to watch, witnesses, victims' families, even the families of the condemned, what they are about to witness will haunt them for the rest of their lives. Cellular death. What could possibly go wrong with that? Turns out, a lot of things, as was discovered with the method of lethal injection, with some executions lasting up to 2 hours. Each person's biology is different, and the human body can react in extremely unpredictable ways. Of the more than 600 gas chamber executions in the United States, far too many have gone seriously awry, to the point where one warden once commented that if he were forced to kill another prisoner by gas, he would resign. That's not a threat. That was the declaration of a man who had seen too much and could bear no more. Prisoners were often seen drooling and moaning long after they should have been unconscious. They writhed in the tight straps, their bodies convulsing uncontrollably. They cried. They shouted silently behind the thick glass. Witnesses couldn't hear the cries, but they could see the mouth wide open, eyes bulging with terror. And that's even worse than the sound. On September 2, 1983, Jimmy Lee Gray was executed by lethal gas in Mississippi. What happened in the next 8 minutes would become one of the most horrific executions on record. Gray began to moan and bang his head against a pipe next to the chair. Damn, damn, damn. The sound of metal hitting the skull echoed through the small room. The witnesses sat motionless, unsure of what to do. A woman is crying with her face in her hands. A man turned away and vomited. After 8 minutes of this hellish spectacle, prison officials had to clear the viewing room. They can't let people see anymore. No one knows exactly how long it took for Gray to truly die. It could be 15 minutes. It could be 20. In 1960, Carol Chessman told reporters that he would nod if he felt pain during the execution. It was a challenge, a way to prove that the gas chambers weren't as inhumane as they said, and Chessman kept his promise. After the gas began to be pumped in, Chessman nodded, and continued to nod, and nodded. For several minutes he nodded while groaning behind the thick glass, his eyes fixed on the onlookers. It was an accusatory look, a look that said, "You're killing me, and you know exactly how painful it is." Finally, Chessman fell unconscious. But that image, the constant nodding head, the desperate eyes, haunted witnesses until the day they died. Pain and unconsciousness are difficult to study, so it's unclear exactly how painful death by gas is. But experts believe the sensation of dying from toxic gas is similar to the extreme pain of a heart attack, only it lasts for several minutes continuously as the gas slowly works to cause death. Imagine the feeling of your chest being crushed, unable to breathe, your heart racing, and that feeling not ending in seconds, but lasting for minutes. On the other side of the glass, the victim's family sat there, hoping to find peace and closure to a painful chapter. But instead, they witnessed another brutal spectacle. In another corner, the families of the condemned, mothers, wives, children, also sat there, watching. Their loved ones die in agony. No one leaves that room unchanged. No one finds peace in a gas chamber. After so many horrific stories from executions in gas chambers, this method has largely been banned in the United States. The last execution by gas chamber took place in 1999. It was the end of an era in which American society tried to find a civilized way to kill people and failed miserably. Today, prisoners can still be executed in gas chambers in Arizona, California, Maryland, Mississippi, Missouri, and Wyoming, but only if lethal injection is not feasible. It's a contingency clause, a last resort that most people hope they'll never have to use. Other states have completely rejected this method, acknowledging that it violates the Eighth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which prohibits cruel and unusual punishments. The old gas chambers are now abandoned, relics of a dark era where the metal chairs remain, and the stains on the walls stand as silent witnesses to what happened. But with the effectiveness of the lethal injection method also being seriously questioned, states are once again seeking a new and humane method of execution. Poison injections, once considered a modern alternative to gas chambers, are now facing similar problems. There are cases where prisoners take up to 2 hours to die. The vein burst. The medication isn't getting into the bloodstream properly. The prisoner woke up halfway through, screaming in pain. Once again, humane death has become torture. Some states are considering returning to old methods: execution by firing squad, hanging, and even the electric chair. It's a sad admission. After more than a century of searching, they still haven't found a perfect way to end a human life. Utah has carried out executions by firing squad in recent years. Tennessee has the electric chair ready, and the circle keeps turning. There's a profound paradox in all of this. Society is trying to find a decent way to kill people. We want to punish the most brutal crimes by not being brutal. We want justice, but we don't want bloodshed. We want revenge, but with a mask of compassion. And in the process, we've created a parade of failures, from the noose to the gas chamber to the needle, each method promising humanity, and each method betraying that promise. Philosophers and ethicists have debated for decades. Is humane execution a contradiction in terms from the outset? Can a person's life be taken humanely? And if not, what does that say about the nature of capital punishment? The gas chambers still exist in 6 U.S. states, serving as a reminder of what happens when we try to scientize death. The metal chair was still there, the acid container was still there, and the thick glass pane was still there, where hundreds had sat and witnessed death, not as they thought it would be, but as it truly was: slow, painful, and unforgiving. In the effort to find the perfect death, humans have created countless imperfect deaths. And the question remains, hanging like the toxic fumes that once lingered in those closed rooms, is humane execution inherently a contradiction?